I christen thee United States ship Gerald R. Ford. May God bless the ship and all who sail her.
It was a weekend of ceremony and celebration as the USS Gerald R. Ford was officially christened at the Newport News Shipyard.
24-hour News 8's Rick Albin brought you the stories as they unfolded in Virginia. He's back in studio tonight. We were downstairs talking about some of the events. I was getting chills. Just an emotional weekend.
It was so amazing to be there. Just to give you an idea, the last shot you saw, that video coming to us, was Susan Ford Bale's granddaughter. The whole family was there. Remarkable, new state-of-the-art, first of its class aircraft carrier christened. Ceremony was like something out of a movie. Really, you expected some big Hollywood name to walk out. It was all complete with Navy brass band and the famous bottle break. But the real special moments came as those who knew him best paid tribute to President Ford while equating his life to the ship's motto, integrity at the helm.
Accompanied by...
With more than 25,000 people expected to observe, the shipyard and Navy personnel involved in the christening ceremony had everything planned to the smallest detail. President Ford's family and closest cabinet and staff members were in attendance, and it didn't take long for the conversation to turn to the man for whom the world's newest aircraft carrier is named.
He came into office at that time in 1974. It was a time of enormous pressure and high stakes. Our enemies were searching for weakness, so our president, he had to be strong. Our institutions were shaken, so the president had to be decisive. And our people were reeling from mistrust, so the new president had to be open and candid. President Gerald Ford was all of those things.
Of course, for the ship's sponsor, it wasn't just a day to honor a former president, but a day to honor Dad.
Dad, their message fills this shipyard. You kept your promise. You healed the nation. You gave the American people a president that was a shining beacon of integrity at the helm.
Thousands of people at the shipyard shared in the experience of a lifetime, watching the first of its class aircraft carrier officially christened. For a far smaller crowd of family, friends, staffers, and even former Secret Service agents, an evening gathering led to more remembrances of the president, including former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, setting the record straight about helping President Ford forge relationships with foreign leaders.
I did not help Jerry Ford to establish these relationships around the world. He did that by himself and by the personality that he was.
To former Chief of Staff and Vice President Dick Cheney, recalling his old boss's not-so-subtle jibes after Cheney took a position Ford once held.
The president, I'm convinced, although he never said this to me, I'm convinced he was proud of the fact that I'd followed his career path and eventually arrived at that august point where I was the Vice President of the United States. But every time he saw me in those years, 8 years that I was Vice President, the early part of it anyway, he never failed to tell me, he'd say, "Dick, that was the worst damn job I ever had."
It's been 40 years since Congressman Ford was tapped for the worst job he ever had. Many of those who gathered in Newport News go all the way back to those days, those unsettled days of the 70s. And this weekend, something came more apparent to me that has been emerging over the past several years in this year of his 100th birth. We heard a lot of things about the 38th president, things a lot different than when he left office in 1977. Words like honor and integrity and statesman and reasonable, even from Democrat Carl Levin, who used some of those very same words every time his name was mentioned. And his name will be mentioned often, at least in response or in regard to the ship. It'll be sailing for 50 plus years, and it'll only need one refueling.
It's
pretty good
amazing?
mileage. Yeah,
it's phenomenal.
One in that 50 years.
It's nuclear powered.
Right, two nuclear reactors on this one.
Great stuff out there.
Yeah, it was, well, you know, I've been to inaugurations, I've been to national conventions. I have never been to an event like this. Don't expect I ever will be.
Big. All right, thank you, Rick. Really